Okay, we do have a number of requests for general appearance, and it appears, Commissioners, that the general appearance portion of our meeting may be longer than the meeting was itself. We have 14 requests. I'll call your name. You can come up to the podium if you'll restate your name, just in case I didn't get it correctly, and give your residence address. Then you'll have 3 minutes to address council. So one of our frequent flyers, Dr. Moyer, is up first.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Jim Moyer. I'm the elected Orange Soil and Water Conservation District 2 Supervisor. I live at 1811 Southern Red Oak Court, Ocoee, Florida, 34761. If I may, Mayor, I'm going to take the liberty of encouraging everyone to decide to choose love, as Dr. King did. Also, I'd like to take the liberty of congratulating retired naval officer Commissioner Tom Keene, and congratulate Commissioner Shan Rose for her first full term, and not only congratulate Commissioner Chapin, but offer my services within Rosemont and to perform my duties to assist, guide, and educate in implementing land and water resource protection practices. So my services are offered to you to help in any way I can, sir, and God bless you all, and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Dr. Moyer. Jervon Brown. Carlos Quinones. After Mr. Quinones, Solanka Melton and Tracy Anderson. You're up.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer. Yes, my name is Carlos Quinones, and my address is 19374 Folklore Drive, Orlando, Florida, 32827. I just came here to raise an issue that was a matter of concern to me, and I decided to take action on this information. It's all information that is publicly available online. I just wanted the council to please look into it, since it would be, I would consider it my first line of defense against this, what I consider a looming threat to the city of Orlando. Now, if you may have not heard, over the last couple of weeks, there were rumors that the Department of Homeland Security was interested in purchasing a warehouse east of Orlando, a couple of miles from the airport, called Beachline Logistics Center. Right now, I looked into it and I investigated online excessively, and well, basically I found out that the developer of that building, TPA Group, which is stationed in Georgia, is interested in leasing the warehouse to a single tenant. Now, this is a large warehouse. It's about 440,000 square foot, approximately. Its official designation is industrial use. And ICE essentially wants to convert that industrial use to a detention center. And well, they're still in early talks. They haven't signed any agreements or any contracts, but they are they're serious about in purchasing the building from TPA Group, and they actually want to use HLI Partners as the broker negotiating the sale, since they're the ones who are marketing the building and essentially looking for buyers. One of them is Department of Homeland Security. And well, for the recent news regarding excessive, abuses by ICE, in the state of Florida and elsewhere, nationwide, well, I'm very concerned about this issue, mainly because it could be misused for additional human rights abuses, and also the fact that the warehouse is currently positioned adjacent to a facility belonging to Kratos Security Solutions. And Kratos Security Solutions is a defense contractor specializing in surveillance, logistics, and experimental technology. So my main concern is that ICE will set up a detainment center and use Kratos to handle the logistics and the surveillance across the city of Orlando with the intention of harassing our citizens and, well, making Orlando a worse place to live. I take this threat seriously enough, and I have good reason to believe that this could become a reality. But since there hasn't been a contract signed or anything else along those lines, I'm requesting to block any potential deals before they actually happen and block any discussion regarding this particular sale, and I want this dead in the water before it comes close to having a deal. Thank you.
Thank you. We're monitoring the situation, but we don't have anything official.
Sorry?
We are monitoring the situation, but there has been no official contact whatsoever.
Okay, appreciate it.
Okay, Salonika Melton. And then Tracy Anderson, and then Luana Gelser.
Hi, my name is Salonika Melton. I'm a resident at 3321 West South Street. I'm here about the excessive force. For the residents, I told them, since they're going to mainly be watching online, for the residents that's been violated by the use of excessive force, jumped on, or not arrested, I'm here to tell you guys to just stop arguing with the officers. Don't flinch to avoid that resisting charge. Let me tell you what you can do. Go file a claim on their bond. Gather all the evidence, the officer's name, the badge number, and any video footage from anyone that was around, and a detailed description of the officer or officers. Ask for the bond. Head on down to the court or chambers of commerce and tell them that you'll like to get the surety bond of officer so-and-so. Get the bond copy, make sure it's a certified copy, contact the surety, because we're gonna start assuring things. Let's start making power moves. Next call the insurance company, file a claim, yes, a claim on the police officer. If you do it correctly, the officer may lose their bond. Knowledge is power. You can't lose with it. Just don't argue, use the system because they use it on us. Let's stop allowing them to play in our face. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy Anderson, and then Luana Gelser. You can, Ms. Anderson, you can give them to the clerk and she'll pass them down. Right, just give them all to down here.
My name is Tracy Anderson. I live at 2801 Lake Sunset Drive. I'm here again to talk about the insomniac money that we've been denied. The paperwork that have been passed to the commissioners states that the associations that live within the West Lakes communities at the immediate vicinity of Tinkerfield and Camping World stadiums are the ones who's entitled to this money. It was brought to my attention that they said that there was no paperwork. This paperwork states exactly what we've been saying all along. The first page, the second page will talk about the first money that we got. Everybody got the same amount. When Commissioner Rose became commissioner, she doled out the money to whom she chose. Our neighborhood is right adjacent to Camping World Stadium, and we got $2,000, and the other people got $6,000. Also, the Ebony Beauty Academy got $3,200, and they are not in our community. And if you look at the back page, you'll find a picture. That is a picture of the address of the Ebony Beauty Academy. Also, there's a map that shows you who got what and how close they are to the Camping World Stadium. I don't mean to be saying all this stuff every time I come, but I have no choice because I'm being ignored. I've spoken with her several times to try and get this thing resolved so that we can all have a peaceful existence. She asked for us to support her, but how can I support her when you take from me? I need you to help me. If you want my help, you're gonna have to help me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Lawana Gelzer, then Regina Hill, then Octavian Cantilli.
I got you set up for
I need that.
you. Yeah, I'm sending it up for you.
Oh, okay.
It should be good to go for you.
Is it? Okay. She said it's good to go. I don't see it. Hope I'm doing it the right way. Okie dokie. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Lawana Gelzer, 815 Hill Street. Happy New Year, everybody. Greetings. Been away for a while. It was a great experience to be able to do some work globally. So returning back from Ghana and a couple other places in Africa, evidently we kind of know what we're doing, so we were invited to do some work there. For the first time in many, many years, the takeaway from the meeting Wednesday, January 21st, was the first meeting our neighborhood association was finally acknowledged that we exist and that we've been doing work. So my concern was things that has been transpiring in our community. But one of my major concerns is the Camping World Stadium or the Camping World study on the community impact. And that this particular flyer was handed out, and a gentleman emphasized that it was going to include not just the 5 communities that was in Westlake, but they were going to add 3 more. And 3 more was the Washington Shores community, Richmond Heights, and Lakes Man. The other ones are Lake Sunset, Lake Lana Doone, Rock Lake, Bunch Manor, and Clear Lake, Cole. You're adding, you're going west. You're ignoring Paramore. We're not being studied. As a statistician, as a person that does studies for the federal government and others, if you're not getting the right data, then the output will be flawed. So if you don't want to know the true impact of the community, you're not going to include them at the table. And this is something I've noticed over and over again with the city of Orlando. You don't want certain people at the table. It don't have to be Lawana Gelzer, but it needs to be people from the community. My family has invested many years, many tax dollars. And so we're just wanting to be at the table so we can tell you what our impact is. We don't need you to select who you want it to be. You need to be the people who are on the ground dealing with this issue. I asked about the Westmoreland timeline. We said maybe the summer 2026. I majorly asked about the solid waste projects and the road resurfacing project. When I was here last year, I said it took 40 years for you to pave my road. 40 years! Someone brought it to my attention that they was instrumental in doing it, but they were not. It was February 2024 when my road was finally paved after 40 years. My family has been on that plot at that land since 1948. That is not good business. So I'm here to just say, we know the impact. We give solutions. We bring solutions. We know what's going on in our community. Stop allowing other people to be our voice, because now that the NFL is looking at bringing the Jaguars here, maybe we have connections with their divisions to talk about social justice and impact. I don't want to do that, but if you force my hand, I will pick up the phone and call some people that I've known for many, many years. We want to be a part of the impact of our community when Camping World is getting $400 million. Thank you.
Commissioner Regina Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. Pains me to be here today, but I must. Good afternoon, Council. Friday, I discovered some information that I want to share. I'm here today because the City of Orlando is witnessing a dangerous misuse of authority, and I think I've passed out a police report that I found over at OPD on Friday. Commissioner Shan Rose has filed a police complaint against me, and the very complaint I have presented to you all calls for further investigation. Let us be clear about what that means. This is not simply a disagreement. This is an attempt to trigger law enforcement scrutiny, create legal jeopardy, and escalate retaliation under the color of public office. And it's not just retaliation against me, it's retaliation, as you hear, against the community. Because when an elected official uses complaints, investigations, and intimidation to silence those who speak out, every resident gets the message, stay quiet or you could be next. The complaint suggests that my public speech, my lawful civic engagement, my decision to contest an election amounts to so-called unsavory conduct. But civic disagreement is not a crime. Political criticism is not harassment. And participating in a democratic process is not intimidation. The allegations that Commissioner Rose fears for her life because of me or my supporters is not only extreme, but is ludicrous. Discomfort is not danger. Accountability is not violence. And an elected official cannot, I repeat, cannot claim fear as a shield every time the public demands answers. Because being a commissioner does not entitle one to weaponize Orlando Police Department against a perceived enemy. Law enforcement is not a political tool. OPD should never be placed in the middle of retaliatory political conflict. This is a repeated pattern by Commissioner Rose. When she's questioned, she does not respond with transparency. She responds with retaliation. Instead of answering the public, she escalates complaints. Instead of accountability, she invokes investigations. This council has a responsibility to ensure that the public systems that are in place are not being used for personal or political retaliation. So today, Mayor and Council, I respectfully ask that this type of abuse of power cease and desist by Commissioner Shannon Rose. Orlando cannot become a city where public criticism is treated like a police matter. Public office does not come with the right to silence people. Leadership requires courage, not retaliation. So today, Mayor, I'm asking, am I under investigation? The commissioner has lodged a complaint and want my bond revoked and me removed from my family because I dared challenge her.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill.
It's not right, Mayor.
Okay, Octavian Cantilli.
Hello, my name's Octavian Cantilli from 443 Page Street. For the new commissioners who don't know me, I was the one who started Stop Soto Shelter Advocacy. Most of the over 1,500 Soto residents that signed our petition and shared their stories are not against helping people in need. We just want to do so without putting a disproportionate amount of stress on any community, with solutions for both people experiencing short-term homelessness and long-term homelessness, and with budgetary and effectiveness transparency. During my attempt to learn more about how the city and the county invest in addressing homelessness, I've come across approval for a $6 million facility renovation that adds 0 new homeless beds, a facility with men's beds available, yet with men literally sleeping outside against that building, approval for a program which, by its own estimate, will help 400 people get into permitted housing over 3 years at a cost of $8,600 per person, approval for funding extension to an organization that scored itself a D overall, and when I called that organization out, they removed the public access to that scorecard and said that the public has no understanding of that data. Then let's not forget the various pro-shelter groups that are pushing narratives like all homeless people are our neighbors, or advocacy for counting elderly people living with their children as homeless for the purpose of the yearly homeless count. Instead of fighting over the narrative, which does very little good for anybody, and turns off a lot of residents to contributing to homeless services, I'd like to focus on effectively using the money we do have to getting as many people off the street as possible. The City of Orlando and the county should team up and prioritize the safety of the tax-paying citizens and the prosperity of its local businesses by promoting policy that gives all people experiencing long-term homelessness a safe and hygienic place to stay 24/7 that is away from densely populated residential areas. One solution that does just that is the scalable and cost-effective tent and pod solution from the Tampa Hope campground. If I ever were to be homeless, I would 100% rather live in a temporary tent than a 24-hour security than a brick and mortar shelter with 20 random people, each with their own issues. It should be crystal clear to you guys that there's thousands of Orlando taxpayers who call our current homeless service efforts at best wasteful and at worst intentionally propagating the problem. Please create a homeless advisory board and then allow representation from the thousands of residents unhappy with the effectiveness of our current homeless service policies. On a side note, where are these homeless buses that supposedly went into service months ago? I don't know a single person who has even seen one.
Thank you. We tried that partnership with the county on Kaylee. You'll recall that. Okay, the remainder of the general appearance speakers all appear to be on the Lake Eola swan issue. So I'm going to have Rodney come up and give a quick overview on the unfortunate deaths of a large number of swans from avian flu at Lake Eola Park, and that'll lead into, Rodney is our interim director of Parks and Recreation. Lisa Early is in the midst of retirement, so Rodney will be taking that on as a permanent status at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, Commissioners. The tragic loss of swans at Lake Eola, as well as other wild birds from the avian influenza, is difficult for all of us. These animals hold a special place in our hearts at Families, Parks, and Recreation, and we do not take this lightly. These are the steps we have taken since we learned of the outbreak. We consulted experts to confirm proper protocols, FWC, Department of Health, USDA labs, ongoing reporting and consultation with FWC and Department of Health, consulted with the veterinarian on proper care for the swans, implemented sanitizing of the park, removed bird feeders, shared information with the public. Let's review the current situation. At Lake Eola, we have experienced 37 total deaths. 29 of those have been mute swans. 4 of those were wild and not part of the Lake Eola flock. The 8 others were wild birds. We have had only 1 swan death since January 21st. Our current swan flock stands at 44 birds. Test results from the state of Florida Brunson Animal Disease Diagnostic Laboratory have confirmed avian influenza as the cause of death among our swans. During this time, we are receiving advice from experts including Dr. Jeffrey Gardner, a veterinarian with expertise in swans. He is the vet you see at our annual Swan Roundup. Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, which runs the lab, and the Florida Department of Health. Each has confirmed that this strain of avian influenza is a global concern, not just in our area, but widespread across the nation and around the globe. We have been advised to allow the avian influenza to run its course. We have received reports of 3 confirmed wildlife deaths at Lake Davis Park. We have one scene confirmation that one of these deaths was from avian influenza. The city has not independently confirmed this information, but is responding. We are sharing precautionary guidance with residents to reduce the risk of exposure, posting signs at the park, asking residents to report sick or deceased birds to FWC, and monitoring park conditions while staying in communication with the public health and wildlife officials. Moving forward, we will continue to monitor our swans for any signs of illness and respond with care. We will also continue maintenance of the park and procedures advised by Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, as well as sharing information with the public on protecting themselves from exposure to avian influenza. There will be a full review of our processes and procedures for our SWAN program, input from experts, consultation with other city departments when needed, and the creation of a system of best practices for moving forward to ensure the highest standards of care for our beloved swans. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioner.
Okay, we have 6 speakers. Are there any questions for Rodney at this point? Okay, it'll be Andrew Marshall, Caitlin Matheny, Harris Lear, Olive, Olivia Glazier, Rosina McWicker, and Megan Core.
Mayor Dyer, may I ask, before my time starts, I'd like to present the petition to the city clerk. It has over 2,200 signatures in regards to requesting responsible care for our city-owned swans. This is not about avian influenza. In addition, I'd like to ask those who are here today in support of the swans to please briefly stand. Sorry, ladies, it takes a moment. So we have some signs here. Since I want to make sure we could have those, but add this just in case. I'm ready. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Andrew Marshall, and I live at 125 East Copeland Drive. And between my wife and I have 60 years of residency in Orlando. My wife and I raised our family and have built our careers here, where for the past 5 years I have volunteered and led the Swan Docent Program. I am here today to address serious concerns regarding the ethical care and stewardship of city-owned swans at Lake Eola. Everything I am sharing is supported by documentation, firsthand observation, and public record. Materials I've formally submitted to you and have been presented electronically and in person through the city clerk. Given your backgrounds and commitment to public service, I do not believe that any of you would accept the current conditions as appropriate or responsible. The only reasonable conclusion is that the full scope of the problem has not been completely shared with you, which we are here today to make sure happens. As you know, the swans at Lake Eola are purchased by you, the city, owned by you, and their wings are clipped by law, meaning they are fully confined to this lake. Their food, safety, medical care, and survival are entirely dependent on city decisions and human care. They are not wild animals that can leave when conditions become undesirable. The park sees nearly 2 million visitors each year, the 4th highest visitor destination in Central Florida. For years, what attendees have seen every day is neglect and cannot be what any of you would want as your legacy. Volunteers who are in the park daily have raised concerns, respectfully and repeatedly, about ongoing trash accumulation in the lake, water quality, and the absence of qualified avian expertise involved in routine and emergency care decisions. These concerns were not raised casually. They were supported by documentation, photographs, necropsy findings, expert guidance, and years of hands-on experience. Yet requests for numerous meetings with Lisa Early and collaboration across departments were ignored or deferred. I want to be very clear about what that silence has resulted in and where the consequences of this system are now undeniable. A lake consistently filled with trash, mold-covered feeders that lead to disease, inadequate security and infrastructure resulting in birds being kicked, stolen, or killed. Did you know that last year, outside of the avian influenza, 30 swans died at Lake Eola, and during the roundup, an additional 13 swans were unaccounted for, where these birds either died or were stolen? This should concern you. and represents a serious failure of oversight, along with nearly 40,000 in taxpayer-funded animals gone. The recent avian influenza outbreak was the tipping point for me and this community. Necropsy results and expert recommendations were shared with city staff on December 23rd. No meaningful action was taken until a week later. If you, the city, chooses to keep these swans, you must also ensure better care and accountability. What happened cannot be undone, but what happens next is entirely up to you. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your response.
Caitlin Matheny, and then Harris Lear.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of City Commission. My name's Caitlin Matheny, and I'm a resident of Orlando at 1611 South Eola Drive. Thanks for allowing me to speak today. I'm here to address sanitation, water quality, and the city's management of the wonderful swans at Lake Eola. Lake Eola is a downtown stormwater retention basin. That means it's designed to collect polluted runoff from the streets, sidewalks, and surrounding development. Every rain event washes oils, metals, fertilizers, and other contaminants directly into the water. Yet the city is keeping a large population of swans in that same water, which creates constant exposure to pollution and chronic health stress for these animals. Trash and debris are also a persistent problem. There is garbage visibly floating in the lake and along the shoreline for days and sometimes weeks at a time. These conditions are documented in photos that Andrew Marshall has provided to council today. This is not a one-time issue, and that's why we're here, just ordinary citizens, not animal rights activists or anything like that. It's a pattern of inadequate sanitation in a public park that is heavily visited by residents and tourists. During a reporter's investigation, an independent water quality consulting firm reviewed Lake Eola. Their conclusion was that a lake of this size could realistically support only one breeding pair of swans in the wild, and that Lake Eola does not meet water quality standards needed to support aquatic life. As you all know, I think Lake Eola is 23 acres. In natural conditions, a single pair of mute swans requires 10 to 20 acres. That means the lake would normally support 2 swans, not roughly 70 earlier last year, or now I believe we're down to in the 40s. This level of overpopulation creates excessive waste, increases nutrient loading, degrades water quality, and it significantly increases the spread of disease, as we're seeing now as avian flu is spreading. The city's own feeding infrastructure is also contributing to illness. Overwater feeders are visibly moldy and dirty. These conditions promote bacterial growth, and bacterial infections have been documented in swan necropsies from 2022 through 2025. Chemical treatments are another concern. Algicides commonly used in the lakes contain copper. A public records request is currently pending to determine when copper-based algicides were last applied to Lake Eola. Copper accumulates in the lake sediments over time and is toxic to animals that forage underwater, including our swans. A necropsy from November 15th, 2024 found that elevated copper levels likely contributed to a swan's death, along with parasitic infection. Together, these facts show that the city is operating a public-facing animal program in a body of water that is structurally designed to collect pollution. This isn't an isolated problem, this is systemic. It's a public trust issue and an animal welfare issue. Thank you for your time.
Harris Lear, and then Olivia Glazier.
Harris Lear, 820 South Lake Davis Drive, Orlando, Florida. Mayor, our swan birds are accessible and unprotected. They are kicked, chased, stolen, and killed. In August, a transient picked up a swan that had just been rehabilitated by volunteers, tending to it 3 times a day for a month, and snapped its neck. There is zero low-profile fencing or any barrier onto Robinson, where swans have wandered into the road and run over. The mate of an Australian pair was run over a few days after being donated by David and Nicole Beyer. The city has continued to lie to these donors, telling them the pair donated is thriving. The pair still alive is from the city's purchase of 2 Australian swans in August of 2024. The donated pair came with leg tags from the breeder, and that is how they have been identified. Beloved waterfowl outside swans are not protected in any way by the city, such as geese and ducks, where they have been stolen overnight, and volunteers have done work to track them down on Craigslist for sale and retrieve them, putting themselves in harm's way and spending out of pocket to purchase stolen animals and return them to their home. Are the cameras active, which the city has paid for? There have been documented poisonous pesticides and herbicides used in Lake Eola, obtained via public record, including the following. For December 2025 alone: prosecutor, an active ingredient of Roundup, deadly to animals; three-way, active ingredient 2,4-D, one of the 2 active ingredients in what was previously used as Agent Orange. Swans require dry land to preen and activate their preen glands and get to safety, which are essential for waterproofing and survival. There's no accessible dry land for cygnets and ducklings to exit the lake due to the high seawall. The only exit point is the boat ramp on the northwest side, which most swans congregate near feeders in the southwest corner. The fatality of young birds on Lake Eola is far greater than in the wild. Large-scale events, especially those with fireworks, create undue stress on the animals. During Pride Week weekend fireworks of 2024, a swan flew into the power lines and was electrocuted. More taxpayer money is spent on the swan boats than the swans. Thank you.
Thank you. Olivia Glazer, then Rosina McVicker.
Hi, my name's Olivia Glazer. I live at 1619 Antigua Drive, 32806. And I'm here to discuss infrastructure changes needed at Lake Eola for responsible stewardship of our swans and waterfowl in your care. My first conversation topic is the master plan at Lake Eola. We all know that it's underway and it's several years out from being, solidified and put into motion. So in the meantime, the swans that live there are subject to really deteriorating conditions. And back to the master plan, is an avian expert being commissioned to help with those plans? This is their only habitat. It should be the #1 priority of Lake Eola. In the meantime, like I said, the failing seawall is a huge problem. A black-necked swan on January 3rd of last year actually got its head lodged and it drowned to death. And Ranger Robert Petty is the one who had to dislodge it and pull it out. That's a horrible death, and they shouldn't be subjected to that. Another major flaw that Harris sort of touched on is that there is only one area that the swans can reach dry land, and that is the boat ramp all the way on the northwest corner of the lake. That is nowhere near where the feeders are. It is nowhere near where they congregate. Young swans need to be able to get out of the water safely. Think about a tiny little swan trying to get out on that high seawall. They can't. That's why here are some statistics for you. Out of the 29 eggs laid last year, only 10 of them made it to 3 months old. And then that was with volunteer intervention. Without volunteer intervention, it's actually more like 24% made it to 3 months old. The estimates for wild swans is that 50 to 60% make it to 1 year old. So that's a staggering difference. Back to the feeders. So as somebody else touched on, they're very moldy, dirty. They are a hotbed also for spreading avian influenza. They only have a few to eat out of, and it is spread through their saliva. And so they are all just basically eating each other's saliva and spreading bird flu. So that is a major issue as well. The fact that there are only a few of them in this 23 to 28 acre lake is also a huge problem. They're fighting to try to eat. There should be more, and they should be spread out for this number of swans. My last point, there are no appropriate medical pens to house the birds when they are sick or distressed. Our lead swan docent got plans done back in January of 2022 that were done by an expert in the area. 4 years later, they started working on them, and instead of using those plans, they went with ranger recommendations. They hired contractors who did not have any meaningful experience with wildlife habitats, and now they are left half complete, and we know that this is specialized stuff, but it matters. Thank you for your time.
Rosina McVicker and then Megan Core.
Rosina McVicker, 1723 Lockwood Avenue, Orlando, Florida, 32812. Mayor Dyer, Commissioners, thank you for your time this afternoon. I'm not here to tell you what to do. My background is in animal rescue and animal advocacy. I have 20 years experience in domestic animal and exotic animal rescue, 12 years in wildlife rescue, including time working at a local facility. I'm very familiar with avian influenza, as are most people in the rescue community. It's not new. It's been in the area seasonally for several years. I'm not here to tell you you can prevent it or stop it, because you can't. What has happened, though, is this outbreak of avian influenza has drawn attention to the swans at Lake Eola. And I'm appalled. I'm very familiar with animal husbandry, again, both wildlife, agricultural, domestic. The conditions of the animals are living in are deplorable. When you go and adopt an animal from the local shelter or from your local rescue, you typically sign an agreement that you'll provide the care that animal needs for its lifetime. That is appropriate housing, appropriate food, appropriate medical care. Y'all went and bought these birds years ago without a plan. If someone chooses to work with wildlife, they are regulated. There are plans, protocols, standard operating procedures as far down as species-specific size for housing, feeding protocols, everything you do on a daily basis to take care of those animals. And you have to be permitted to do that. And you're subject to inspection by FWC. Apparently, there is no oversight at Lake Eola. The conditions of the feeders are horrible, as has been mentioned by several others. The mortality rates are also appalling because traditionally captive wildlife live longer than those in the wild, because you're ideally giving excellent care and you're removing them from the hazards of living in the wild. To see the reverse happening here is very distressing. You all have a choice. You need to decide to do the right thing, bring on the right staff, implement the right protocols, or choose to move the swans. I'm not here to tell you which one. You all have a lot of experience, different backgrounds. I trust that you'll make the right decision, but you need to make a decision. Thank you for your time.
Okay, and Megan Core.
Good afternoon. Megan Core, 236 South Lucerne Circle. I appreciate the opportunity to hear from everyone here and for the opportunity to speak now. It was wonderful today to read in the news that the city has addressed some of these issues and is working towards solutions. I only hope that we actually see those changes, that they actually come to fruition, but I can't help but wonder why it took 1 month, 4 weeks, to get to this point, for the city to address or even acknowledge that the conditions at Lake Eola are not beneficial to these iconic animals and work towards making common sense changes to improve the conditions. In the meanwhile, avian flu has been spreading to nearby lakes in my community, as I take my morning walk, and it's a new bird photo, a new dead bird photo every morning that comes through the neighborhood chain. We talked about how the city is responding. It's taking right now on average 2 days for the city to come out and recover those deceased and diseased bodies on our community lakes. This is only furthering the spread. The response has been very slow, minimal, and uncoordinated. The city knew on December 23rd there was a high probability of avian flu, yet chose not to implement any mitigation strategies or notify the public. I was actually walking at Lake Eola with my young family on Christmas Eve, and then subsequently went home to my backyard chicken flock, not realizing that I could be potentially putting them in danger. There was no word from the city until almost a week after that, and only after public pressure was leaked. The city's response was not in thanks to the dedicated volunteers who alerted the city of the issue and provided helpful advice, but instead the response was to disparage them and minimize the situation, suggesting visitors to Lake Eola shouldn't eat poop. With the loss of over half the city's swan population, do we still feel like they acted too soon, that they jumped the gun or overreacted? I don't think so. I think early actions would have prevented a lot of this. The volunteers who deeply care for these birds requested to meet with the parks director and the commissioner, yet were met with one-way communication and closed doors. This same response I received when our neighborhood had questions about a fish kill in our neighborhood lake. When I requested a meeting at City Hall, the response I got was I respectfully decline an invitation to a meeting. Then radio silence. We still don't have answers about the fish kill, and I'm not sure we'll have answers about the avian flu. But I hope with this showing here today, there might be some action taken to improve the conditions in the city. I urge the city in the meantime to put a memorandum on the purchase of any new breeded swans until there's a more formal approach and you guys decide how we're going to move forward with the swan program. We love the iconic swans. We would love for them to continue, but we don't want to sit there and watch them suffer. So I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. I thank all of you for your concern and compassion towards the swans in Lake Eola as a whole. Commissioner Sheehan has been our strongest advocate on the swan program over the course of the last 20 years, so I will give her a chance to respond to some of the comments, but I will tell you we're going to take a comprehensive look at everything that goes on. Didn't realize you'd be advocating for us to take the swans out of Lake Eola. That's not my top priority for sure. We've had them here for over 100 years, beginning with, what was Billy's name?
Billy the Swan.
Billy the Swan.
Yes.
That came from Lake Lucerne initially, but he was a mean old guy and had to be separated from some of the others. But he lives on because he's the only stuffed swan that we have over at the History Center. So we obviously have a long history with our beloved swans, and we want to do the right thing by the swans, and we need to evaluate exactly what that might be. Commissioner Sheehan.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and I can't respond to all of the situation, but I just wanted to make a couple comments. We have had swans in the city for 100 years. About 16 years ago, we had a problem with people harming them because they were malnourished from foraging. We weren't feeding them or anything like that. They were just foraging. And people were feeding them bread. They were getting angel wing. They did have a lot of health problems. So 15 years ago, we started the Swan Docent and Roundup. We worked with veterinarians, Fish and Wildlife Commission, and experts for the best practices to feed and care for the swans, including annual vet checks, microchipping, vaccination, and feeding them the proper diets. We relied upon volunteers to help us out. In February 2024, we had our first outbreak of avian flu. It killed 15 swans. We sanitized the park and worked with our expert partners to make it safe. Avian flu comes from migratory birds coming into Lake Eola Park. There is no cure. It can be 100% fatal. We took the feeders out at the request of our veterinarian to stop the spread from the birds congregating. The birds were fed by broadcast feeding during this time. We have lost 37 total birds. 29 were mute swans. 4 of those were wild flyers and not part of our flock. Our last swan death was January 21st. Our current swan flock stands at 44 birds. Avian flu is not caused by water conditions. Over 200 migratory geese in a wildlife refuge died this month. So it was not the water conditions, because you can't get better water conditions in a wildlife refuge. This outbreak has affected over 100,000 birds nationwide. It has spread to Lake Davis as well. It is heartbreaking when any animal dies. This has been personally very difficult for me as well. I've handled many of these swans and know them, and the swan named after me died as well. So this has been horrifying for me, and this has been very difficult. So if I came across as angry, part of grief is anger, because, you know, it's just been really hard to have a lot of accusations lobbed at you at something that you love. It's just been really a hard time for me, too. We at the City of Orlando Parks Department will take input and make necessary improvements to the program to benefit the swans at Lake Eola Park. But the bottom line is this was an unavoidable tragedy. I hope we have a vaccine soon that we can administer to Lake Eola swans, but for now we're just going to have to let it take its course. It's tragic, it's awful, and I hate that it happened, but we will do right by our swans because they are the icon of our city, and they are beloved by many, many, many people in the city. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Sheehan. So I don't have much to add to that other than we've taken note. Thank you for coming and bringing this to everybody's attention. I don't mind that. That's fine, and we'll work on it as best we can. But my preference would be to keep the swans at Lake Eola. All right, thank you for coming today.
Can we respond to that?
No, we're finished now.
It's
Yep.
incorrect. We're not advocating for them to be gone. We're asking you to make a choice of care for them.
I got that. I got it. Okay, thank you. We're adjourned.